Have you ever had one of those days where you just couldn't wait to get to sleep that night so you could wake up the next morning and start fresh? Yesterday was that day for me. If it weren't for my Pelicans playing in the play-in game last night, I would have went to bed at 8:30. I could not get going yesterday. I had a headache all day. I couldn't think like I normally can. I hesitated to even upload the two videos that I uploaded yesterday because I just didn't feel like it was my best work. Mentally, I felt like Joe Biden or Stephen A. Smith all day. I don't know how they walk around every day in a mental fog. At least Joe Biden could use the excuse that he's old. What is Stephen A.'s excuse for being mentally handicapped? Have you noticed what has happened since he got Max Kellerman fired from Woke Take? Ratings have improved. You want to know why? Now, Stephen A. Smith doesn't have a suck ass sitting across from him. He doesn't have a pathetic beta male like Max Kellerman afraid to debate him. He has JJ Redick, Chris Russo, two men who don't need the job at ESPN. On a regular basis, both Redick and Russo completely obliterate Stephen A. Smith. At times, JJ Redick will have Stephen A. so confused he just sits there dumbfounded and remains silent. But anyway, like I said, yesterday was one of those days where I just couldn't wait for the day to end. My mood, my mentality yesterday, it should be the way that Bomani Jones is feeling right now, but it's not. And the reason it's not, Bomani Jones knows he's protected. He's a made man in the woke mafia. I wouldn't put him on the level of a John Gotti or a Carlo Gambino, but Bomani Jones, he's on the level of Sammy Gravano. He's comfortable in his role as the underboss. The huge embarrassing failure with Bomani Jones airs its final episode this Sunday on HBO. If this were normal circumstances, this Sunday would be the final episode ever of this show instead of being the final episode of season 1. Bomani Jones is a money loser for HBO. He should be looking forward to being put out of his misery, getting the chance to start fresh at another network who will pay him to be useless. It's being reported that they are paying him 7 figures at HBO for this bullshit, which is really ironic when you think about it. The entire premise, the only reason for the media existence of Bomani Jones is based on one thing and one thing only. America is racist. He just loves the magic R word. America is just so racist. This country's so racist that a no-talent loser who failed to draw an audience on free radio, failed to draw an audience on cable, was given millions of dollars to fail to draw an audience on HBO. What a racist fucking country that we live in. Only in America can you be this big of a loser and still be a millionaire. Bomani Jones, he's not like the other shitfucks in the mainstream media. He doesn't own a magic woke 8-ball. He doesn't need it. He doesn't talk about the trans. He doesn't talk about gender equity. He doesn't talk about teaching your kids to be gender void. To my knowledge, Bomani Jones doesn't have any children, which should come as no surprise to anyone. There has only been one virgin in the history of mankind to have a child, and it damn sure ain't Bomani Jones. What woman would be interested in a dude like this? Women aren't attracted to failures, and believe me, no one does failure like Bomani Jones. Being the underboss in the woke mafia, it comes with certain privileges. One of those privileges, you are exempt from criticism. In the real mafia, if you criticize the bosses, you would get whacked. You end up buried under the meadowlands next to Jimmy Hoffa. Now, the woke mafia, they're not going to kill you. I mean, after all, these pussies are afraid of guns. Instead, they whack you with the magic R word. Check out the comments section on Mediaite. This article is about Clay Travis pointing out that Bomani Jones is a huge embarrassing failure. The virgins came out in full force to defend him. Clay Travis hates black people. This man is racist. How dare he denigrate my woke you professor? Professor Bomani has taught me so much. I have failed with women all my life. Professor Bomani welcomed me with open arms into Club Woke. For the first time in my life, I felt wanted. I didn't even mind the woke hug initiation where he penetrated my ass with his index finger. We have been talking about the numerous failures of Bomani Jones since last summer. Not one time has the mainstream media picked up this story. If you find articles on Bomani Jones in the media, it's all propaganda puff pieces. They pretend this fuck has influence. They pretend he has a massive following. Bomani Jones has 500,000 followers on Twitter. He's influential. I'm starting to think the majority of his Twitter followers are paid for bots. If you open his list of followers, Twitter starts out by showing you all the woke blue check marks that follow him. Other people who are completely useless. People like Elle Duncan, Katie Nolan, Dominique Foxworth, the man named after a woman, Carrie Champion, one of the social justice warriors responsible for the destruction of CNN+. But once you get past the Virgin Hall of Fame, many of Bomani Jones' followers are faceless accounts. He posted a poll on Twitter the other day. Of the 576,000 followers he supposedly has, only 1,000 of them bothered to take the 2 seconds to participate in this poll. Now you may be wondering, what was the question? Bomani Jones asked his followers, do you think Leah Thomas would let me drive his stick? 100% of respondents said yes. All this time we've been covering Bomani Jones. No mainstream media outlet has bothered to discuss his failures. Until today. We finally have an outlet in the mainstream who uncovered the breaking news that Bomani Jones is a loser. It should come as no surprise, the outlet was Fox News. Headline at Fox News, HBO woke sports program Pound My Ass with Bomani Jones fails to resonate with Americans. I wonder why. I wonder why the average American fails to relate to Bomani Jones. Could it be that the content of all 5 episodes was calling white people racist? Bobo, he clearly knows white people find him to be repulsive. So the other day, he came to our defense. Sort of. Watch for yourself.
Black people have been getting passed over for jobs since our jobs became jobs and not America's first unpaid internships. Racism in the NFL is just an offshoot of racism in America, and that shit is too big for one episode. And that's why right now I want to talk to the whites. Because the main victims of NFL hiring practices are y'all. Yes, you, Bryson. Put down that quinoa. Let me be your ally. There is a systemic injustice where you are in the group that's mistreated. That's the American dream. Righteous anger. Man, I'm mad for you. See, getting an NFL coaching job isn't just about being white or even your great resume. It's about your last name.
Does anyone know what the fuck he's talking about? First of all, I don't need or want Bomani Jones as an ally. I don't associate with losers. Every time Bomani Jones is the captain of the ship, hundreds of careers end up at the bottom of the woke sea, while Bomani Jones escapes on the only life raft. This fucking guy, he's like a wasp at a picnic. Every time you swat the little fucker away, he comes buzzing back. Racist, racist, racist. What Bomani Jones was trying to do here was call out nepotism in the NFL. He was trying to relate to us white people by saying, you guys are victim too. Let's be friends. The NFL is all about nepotism. I find it rather ironic that the poster boy of nepotism is calling the NFL out for nepotism. First of all, nepotism has always existed. It will never go away. If you're an NFL head coach or if you're the owner of a company, and you have an open position with 2 applicants, one being your son or your nephew, the other Bomani Jones, are you going to hire? Bomani Jones has no leverage, no leg to stand on when it comes to nepotism. Do I even need to explain why? This is the only man in the media who has never had one successful show, and he continues to be given opportunities. Bomani Jones is proof that affirmative action does not work. The only reason he is given opportunities, ESPN, HBO, they don't want to be called racist. I don't understand the fear. This dude doesn't have a following. He's anonymous. He's unknown. 99% of the country has no idea who the fuck Bomani Jones is. If Bomani Jones accuses you of racism, no one's going to know. No one's going to hear it. This dude lives in delusion. Yesterday, God Awful Announcing wrote an article about ESPN. In the article, they stated that Bomani Jones is no longer with the network. I mean, it's a fair assumption. ESPN literally pays Bomani Jones to do nothing. Most people call that welfare. Bomani Jones calls it employment. He called out Awful Announcing, letting them know that ESPN still pays him bi-weekly to be completely useless. He says that my podcast feed is populating. Populating? I've heard cities populating. I've heard countries populating. Never heard of a podcast populating. Let me translate that for you. My podcast went from 10 to 20 listeners. He then tries to hold them accountable. No excuse, fellas. You just didn't do the work. This is what happens when you are irrelevant. This is what happens when no one gives a shit about you. Awful Announcing didn't do the work because your information isn't important enough to double check. I checked Twitter. The only person to call out this mistake was Bomani Jones himself. His tweet went viral. It received a total of 8 comments and 2 retweets. Normally, when a new show can't hit 500,000 viewers across 5 episodes, it is immediately canned. But HBO is going to renew Bomani Jones for a second season. They canceled Bill Simmons when he was averaging 400,000 per episode, but you know, the standards are different for Bomani Jones. But let me know what you think. Will Bomani Jones be renewed for season 2? And don't you think it's ironic that the poster boy for nepotism constantly calls out the NFL for nepotism? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. See you guys later.